happening.
Good afternoon, Shenique.
Hi.
Good afternoon, Bahamas. It is so good to be back with you. I'm on this journey with you, and everything, all things will work together for your good.
Yes.
You got to hold strong to that, and any Lutheran, they're rooting for you.
Yes,
you know?
yes.
My mommy been inundated with what happened, when it coming back on, and so people desire to hear this panel, people decide to hear all of the shows that you bring forward, because the conversation is, there's no conversation without Shenique.miller, I'm sorry. And so I am so proud of you to stay focused, you know. Hey, this lady talkers will talk.
Yeah.
What you got to do, remember, we declare greater things 2020.
Greater things 2020, I tell you.
So that's where we're at, and so hot topics, I'm so ready.
Yes, absolutely. And by the way, just before Glenroy gets the mic, I want to say to everybody, I mean, I talked about just yesterday, but everybody, any Luthera, Andros, Grand Bahama, the United States, Europe, just all over, non-Bahamians and Bahamians living in those places have reached out. You all would be amazed, have reached out and said, hey, what's going on? Do you need help? We are here with you. Get back on. Get back on social media, keep the conversation going, because it's very, very important. And I want to say a big thank you to everyone.
Well, I'm happy to be here today. You know, this has been a journey. From Friday, I was on the beach, shelling with friends and family, and when I got the call, I was like, what? I said, okay. And from that day on till now, constant prayers and knowing at the end of the day that God has you. You know, I think by the time it's Sunday, I maybe had about 700 between texts and calls. And I'm like, you know what, Shenique she's good. She's gonna be good. And here we are today, back online on stream, owning the conversation.
Yes.
That's the thing when you know, when someone does something to you to hurt you, God turns it around and make it to your best ability.
Yes.
He promotes it that you get the benefit from it. And that's going to be shown, that's showing now. You're here today.
Yes.
And your online presence is, you know, huge. Your listening is huge. Your TV network is huge. And so God got you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's a good
I
thing.
firmly believe that. I totally believe that, and thank you. Thank you.
Gentlemen.
Look at the
I
guys.
sing it first. You look more sweet.
No mud today. No mud.
I look more sexier?
Yes.
I didn't say that, folks. But I concur with Peggy and Bo Candace on what they said as relates to, you know, your experience. And obviously, you know, the scripture says that the present suffering of this time is not worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed of the Lord.
Preach.
And so the reality of it is that sometimes in order to get what God has for you, you have to let go of what's in your hand, because what's in your hand is so small, it's blocking the bigger thing that He wants you to hold. And sometimes you need two hands to hold it. And so what you're holding, the one single thing, that doesn't give you the opportunity to get the other thing. And so these are opportunities, and not a curse as people would believe. There are many opportunities, and they come through, you know, one of the things I often look at life and look at it from this perspective. If you take a tree, a carver goes into the forest and he looks for the best tree to carve out the best image. But if that tree, in its normal state, stays there, it dries up or whatever, and it goes through the cycle of life, the consistency. But what ends up happening is, as the carver chisels away, the pain is great, and the tree is almost finding it unbearable. And it's going through that experience, and it's being chiseled and chiseled and chiseled. But at the end of that chiseling process, there's this beautiful thing that is actually able to sit on a mantle, or is able to sit up on a shelf and admired by many others.
Yes.
Because the place that particular carving is now placed is now in a place that you have more traffic. And so life is going to be the same for you. You're going to be placed in a situation where you're going to have more traffic.
Wow.
So this is just God's opportunity to show you how He's able to do things beyond man's ability. And so, having said that, it's a pleasure to be here. It's a plum-pleasing pleasure, you know, and I look forward to
Great
all the
alliteration.
great things
Yes.
that'll come your way.
Yes, thank you, Glenroy.
Wow, that was so poetic. I'm sure that was Glenn, right?
You should have gone first.
Yeah. Listen, The most powerful animal on earth is an animal that you would never actually suspect. It is not a great white shark, it is not a lion, it is not an elephant or a bear. The most powerful animal on earth is a butterfly. And the reason the butterfly is the most powerful animal on earth is because when it goes into the cocoon, it actually dies. If you open up a cocoon before the butterfly comes out, you will see a bunch of sludge. Just like all of us have acid inside of our stomach, and if it is exposed, we die from the bile. The butterfly actually releases its acid and kills itself. It actually dies in there and becomes a totally different creature. No other animal is able to become a totally different creature. You might as well say a totally different species. It rises renewed and new. Nothing can stop it. Shenique, you are definitely a butterfly. You are the most powerful of creatures. And so what was most impressive with me in this whole thing was the royalty that you displayed, the grace. Whereas other people would have jumped out there and started rowing and arguing and having a big fight, you were so graceful in all of this, and you still are.
Thank you.
You still are. And that makes you a Bahamian legend. This entire experience for me, listen, in media you are a Bahamian legend. You are. I believe that. This takes you to another level. And I truly believe that. I am going to stand for your show again and tell everyone, I have been on this show. I have been a regular on this show, sometimes on a weekly basis. There is no show that Shenique would let anyone come on and say anything out of line without her putting them in line. And I think everyone here can agree with me.
Yes. Absolutely.
I don't care what side you are on, Shenique will shut you up. The camera might not be on her because the camera might be on you. But if the camera was on her, you would see her all out telling you, quit it, stop it. I have seen people, and see, the audience who is not in the studio would know that. She's in full control. She makes everybody understand, as big as my mouth is, she makes everyone understand that when she is talking, nobody talks. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
She makes that abundantly clear. And I think some of you have caught us sometimes putting people in place.
Right.
I have seen people banned from this show. Very good friends of hers. I've seen that. She cannot say that, but I can say that. Very close friends of hers who are part of this show that are no longer part of this show because they were not in control. I've seen that. As long as you bring the facts, Shenique doesn't have a problem. If you bring opinion, slander, etc. on this show, you ain't gonna be on this show. Trust me. All right? And so I can swear for Shenique. Shenique has never said anything disparaging against any government, former or present. Never. And I challenge anyone, because all of the shows are live and public, go and find me one instance where she has said anything disparaging against the government. The fact of the matter is, this is not a news show. She does not have to be balanced. She doesn't. She chooses to. Because there are F&M listeners and PLP listeners and DNA listeners. There are black listeners, white listeners. She keeps you in line, whether it's politics or religion or anything else. I have witnessed that.
Experience that.
I have experienced that. Oh, these F&M children. I joking. You know F&M. He's an F&M.
He's a bit of F&M. F&M.
Guys, listen.
We gotta keep the show exciting, guys. Don't mind you see us rowing and carrying on by.
Yeah, man, I love my brother.
We just come out there and catch row with each other. Love each other. Yeah, so don't mind what you seeing on TV. The Bahamas needs to raise its level. You know, I watch media in the U.S. and I would watch them bring people on that with varying views, and they would go at it. Sometimes they'd be shouting over the host. They'd be going at it for a long time. You're like, man, I can't hear none of them saying. You know, but they would have people with different views, and it would be allowed because that is democracy. Our politicians have to get to that level to where we can have a true, real democracy.
I agree, Lincoln, and thank you very, very much. Thank all of you. And let's jump right in, guys. Let's jump right in and let's talk about what the issues are. Let's start with, for example, where are my notes? Let's start with this coronavirus and the fact that the Bahamas has, in the Ministry of Health, taken a wonderful posture and said, this is what we're going to do. I didn't know it was 20 days, by the way. I thought it was the 2 weeks, but still, the Ministry of Health, our Ministry of Health determined, and Dr. Sands and his team, or we can quarantine you for 2 weeks or 20 days, and this is going to be. Does the Chinese ambassador have a right to even interfere with that and ask that the government somehow reconsiders its position or the Ministry of Health reconsiders its position and pull back? Does the Chinese ambassador have that right?
Of course he does. I mean, he can make a suggestion, but and of course he should do what's in the benefit of the Chinese people, but he doesn't have a right to say anything to our government. He can make suggestions, and if he feels that it's safe and we should, ease up, then he can speak on his country's behalf. Every country should be doing that.
Yeah, but I feel as though, guys, and Lincoln, you're right, of course he has a right, but my thing is, respect what it is we put in place. That's our procedure, that's our protocol. Again, we're just picking up from Dorian, and we're trying to barely pick up. I see the headline says in the Tribune, Abaco cleanup is making progress. That's good to hear, but we have a long way to go. What we don't need on our hand is any potential issues with this coronavirus. Anybody else want to weigh in?
Well, I firstly would like to commend Dr. Sands because he has been on the ground and he's been communicating. Obviously, he's paying attention to the cries of the Bahamian public who are terrified of any thought of somebody coming through with that will bring exposure to them. And so I must congratulate him for being stern and for putting those days in. I thought it was 14 too, but nobody have a right to dictate to our government, whether it's in finance or in this health issue. And then we must also take in consideration that this virus, this outbreak is deeply connected to tourism. And last week there was some false report circulating
about this cruise ship,
about this cruise ship, and it was on CNN and they called the Bahamas name. That can have so much negative effect and on our tourism industry, which is still our #1 industry. And so it must be protected. Our communication must be clear. While we don't want no international problems with any country, we must be protected first. And my daughter's in China. And so we have to protect home base.
Well, how do you feel about that? Because I've heard it expressed to me yesterday, just yesterday, that the government needs to go into China and get those Bahamians there because that's a risk for our country.
See, you can't have it two ways. Either you want to be protected or you want them to come out. First issue, China. You see how China is talking to the Bahamian government. China has the city locked down. They are police guarding. Right now, my daughter's in a situation that she's not allowed outside of her door.
Oh, wow.
The food and water and everything that she
brought
needs
in.
is brought to the door. And so it is strict lockdown. And so if China is enforcing that kind of rule in China,
Right.
then our government have the same
The
obligation
sovereign right to do what they want,
to
what they see
enforce.
fit.
Exactly. And so there are no instances at this time where they're allowed out of China because China is in tight lockdown. The reports are that it is getting better. There are less cases of people.
But then something funny is going on, everybody, because the world is crying. China says getting better, but the UK, for example, today I saw a news story, is taking stricter measures because they are very afraid and concerned. What is going on with this virus that we don't know about?
Well, I would say, I'm like Peggy.
Let me just say bye to the Instagram audience. Thank you, Brandon. Instagram audience, listen, this was just a wonderful little snippet for you. Please go to the Facebook page, Shenique.miller, the conversation, and continue there live with us. Let's get your comments, your feedback. In fact, I don't have a phone on me, so anybody who wants to share a comment and just a little bit about what people are saying on Facebook, please, of course, the panelists, certainly read what the comments are. Let's keep the conversation going. Thank you, Instagram.